Okay. So welcome. So today is Wednesday, March 9th, and this is our first session of the day of Business Career Week. So welcome to all of you who are with us today or who will watch us on YouTube. I'm Judy Stewart, and I work with the Business Career Center, and my colleagues have joined us as well as other students. Wanted to just mention that Business Career Week is part of a series that we do every spring semester. And this spring, many of the career subjects were actually recommended by the students themselves. So we are happy to provide you with the career subjects that are most important to you. And what we're going to be talking about today is actually reviewing your job offer, which is important mostly for juniors and seniors, and especially for seniors. So I'm going to provide just an overview with some important tips. We have all heard from many seniors when they get their first job offer that it is slightly overwhelming. You know, everybody wants to just pay attention to the base salary and just wants to immediately accept. But there's, many different areas of the job offer letter. So we're going to go over them. So now I'm going to open up PowerPoint and hang on one second that I get this right. Then I do share. Just give me a second. Okay.
While you're doing that, Bianca, I believe, is a senior. Is that correct, Bianca? Yes. Okay. Excellent.
Okay, excellent. Good. So wait, I'm not in the right mode yet. And now I should be in the right mode. Do you guys see that?
Well, we see all of the notes and everything, Judy.
You do? I don't have any notes. I think you see the next slide, this over here?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's covered up. So now you don't see the next slide, right? It's covered us up with our.
No, we still see.
You're still seeing?
It's fine. It's fine.
Is it okay? It should be full screen on, maybe I did it wrong. But anyway, so I'm just going to start. And that is, I want to talk a little bit about this photograph because this really resonated with me and maybe with the students that are joining us. So I think the initial reaction when you get an offer letter, as it should be, is elation and happiness, and you want to go out and celebrate, and you want to quit your current job, and you want to post it on social media right away. So that's what's resonating for me in this photograph. And again, you should congratulate yourself. It is wonderful to have an offer, but we're just going to talk about some steps that are important to think about and take once you get an offer. So I don't have a ton of slides, but important. So going to the next slide. So the most important thing is to pat yourself on the back, but then really take a deep breath and think about the following points, just an overview. So always express appreciation when you receive an offer. Even if you do not want to go to the company or aren't sure about the company, always express appreciation to the company about receiving an offer, okay? Next point, offer letters do need consideration and time to review the details. Again, I know that the focus is on, yay, I got a job, here's my base salary, and that's all wonderful, but there's lots of details which I'm gonna sort through for you. The third point is a reasonable time period to accept a job is anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. Now, many bigger corporations literally will give you a time period. So they have more structured programs. Maybe you were a summer intern and maybe you get an offer letter around Thanksgiving and they give you till the beginning of January 1st to give your answer. If they give you the time period, great. And if they don't give you the time period, please know that anywhere from a few days to a week or so is completely fine, and companies will expect that. There's no reason to ever feel pressured and accept on the spot. Okay, I do know sometimes in smaller companies, they are very anxious to have an answer and they want you to join, and that's all wonderful. But please don't ever feel that you have to give an answer on the spot. It is professional to say, I'd like to review this, I'd like to review it with my family. Whatever you say, it's perfectly fine to take that few days to a week or so, or over a long weekend to review your offer letter. Next point, an offer letter that requires a relocation has many, many more details. We're not going to go deep on that one, but please know that if you are relocating states from Connecticut to New York or from Connecticut to California, please know that there is usually a longer lead time. You know, sometimes a student will come to me and say, oh, they want me in Texas in 2 weeks. So you know, you can ask for a longer lead time. There's a lot of things to consider. Get an apartment, to get some sort of housing, and all the steps that you need for a relocation. So that will require a longer lead time. The other thing is that if you are negotiating any items with the recruiter or with the hiring manager, please know that sometimes they cannot negotiate those on the spot. So they need to be approved by human resources, etc., and whether it's more vacation time or bonus or whatever it is that you might negotiate, please know that it's not always that person who has the authority to immediately give you an answer. So don't worry if they say, let me check on that and get back to you. Perfectly fine. They generally need to get that approved by somebody else in their company. Last point, we are going to let you celebrate, but don't celebrate yet. So don't leave a position. Please don't post on social media yet until you get all these important details worked out. I promise you by the last slide, we are going to be celebrating, but you want to make sure that the time when you have leverage is before you sign your offer letter. Once you accept and you sign, it's really difficult to go back and try to negotiate something. You have all the leverage before you sign that offer letter. So we'll talk about the points of the offer letter. Slide. Great. So we're just going to call it 10 elements of a job offer letter. Okay, and these are the things that are important to think about. The first one is job title and employment classification. You may already know the job title if you applied to a posting. Make sure it's consistent with the job title that you applied for. Employment classification, what that means is that a job can be, an entry-level job can be hourly or it can be salaried. So what that means is that if you go into a job as an hourly, also called non-exempt employee, you are eligible for overtime. In most states, it's over 40 hours a week when you can get paid for overtime. If you're salaried, no matter how many hours you work, you are not paid for overtime. So keep in mind that that may be a question that you want to ask. Sometimes it is spelled out in the offer letter, many times it's not. So get some clarification on whether you're hourly or salaried. Next point in the offer letter, the job description you probably already have. If you don't have it by now, it's perfectly fine to request it. Also in the offer letter is who you are reporting to. So reporting structure can change along the way, but in an offer letter, it should say the name of the person that you are reporting to, so that you know who your go-to person is as you are training, as you're going through orientation, as you have questions. Know the person who is your supervisor. The next part of an offer letter is going to have your starting salary. So again, if you are hourly paid, that is your base salary. It won't include any overtime because nobody knows yet how much overtime you're going to be working. So that is your starting salary, is the next part. Okay, bonuses. There's a few different types of bonuses. So I'm going to start with, okay, let me start with this. Not every job has a bonus, and that's fine. And then there are certain industries that have a very specified bonus structure. So if you're working for a Fortune 500 company, and especially in investment banking, you probably have a very specified bonus structure. So that's called a performance bonus. And if you are unclear about either what the opportunity is in dollars or percentages, please ask the person that's offering you this job to go through it with you. The other thing about bonuses is that a company may have bonuses, but you may not yet be in a bonus eligible category. So maybe the bonus starts at the manager level and you're coming in at an analyst level. So absolutely ask questions if a bonus is not specified. It's important that you understand that and get that up front. The next type of a bonus that is rare, but sometimes you'll see it, is called a sign-on bonus. And that is a one-time bonus that is given to you upon entering a company. And generally, a sign-on bonus has stipulations to it. And what I mean by that is that don't be surprised if there is a document along with your offer letter that mentions that if you leave the firm voluntarily leave the firm within a year or so, and all firms do different periods of time. The general time is about a year. Some do more, some do less, but about a year. That bonus that they give to you, they have the right to ask you back for that bonus. So if you resign that firm at the 9-month point, you have already been given that sign-on bonus. You will be signing a document saying that you owe them back that bonus. So keep in mind, sometimes when you get an offer letter, you get a myriad of confusing papers to sign. And one of them is that release about owing them back that bonus if you leave during a certain period of time. And that is very common when you're given a sign-on bonus. So keep in mind that does occur. The other thing that I'm going to put in the bonus category is certain jobs have a commission structure. So a commission is also a bonus. Commission is generally based on sales. So if somebody perhaps offers you a job and the starting salary, the base salary, is not quite as grand as you want it to be, but there's a commission structure. Be very clear that you understand the commission structure, and if at all possible, get that in writing from the company. They can change their commission structure, but it's important for you to understand the commission structure. The last thing that I want to say about bonuses, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. They are taxed at a higher rate. So please do not shed any tears, and I'm going to tell you why. When you see a $5,000 bonus become a $3,000 bonus when you actually get it, because they are taxed at something like 46%, and taxes can always change, but they're taxed at a higher rate. The reason I'm telling you not to weep so much, even though I know that you would like that full 5,000, who wouldn't, is that you might see a good deal of that back in your taxes the next year. So it's all withholding that the company's taking. And I can't speak about everybody's taxes, but you may get a good chunk of that back in your taxes the next year. But the point about bonuses is that they are heavily taxed. So just be aware. The next part on this one is the start date. And please know about start date. The employer will always want you yesterday. They will want you as soon as possible. And I know that you are thrilled and you want to start that job, but you may also want to graduate and take a couple of weeks off or go on a family vacation, whatever. Please know that you are in charge of your start date. And don't be afraid to work with them on the start date that works for you. The only difference that I am going to point out is that if you are in a structured training program like investment banking or some of the big consumer packaged goods firms, they will generally give you an offer letter and let you know well in advance when the start date is. So if you get an offer letter and you're starting 4 or 5 months later, please know that date is probably not as negotiable because they're giving you a lot of lead time on that. But if you get an offer in May and they want you to start the first week in June, and you want a little bit more time before you start, please know that you can politely ask and navigate the date that works best for you. So those are the first 5. Any questions on those 5? To the next one. And anybody can ask any questions anytime. Okay, great. So I said 10 elements, so let's go to the next 5. Okay, great. So benefits, health and retirement is probably the most confusing group of subjects in the offer letter that students' heads are just overwhelmed by, especially retirement, because the truth is you're just graduating college and who wants to think about retirement? So let me explain a couple of things, okay? Most companies will offer full-time employees health, dental, maybe prescription drug plan benefits. There could be 2 or 3 choices on those benefits. Feel free to sit down with your parents, sit down with any of the career counselors. We're here to help you. Sit down with a relative who's aware of these things, and go through the options, okay? The other thing that I want to state to you is that most employers, when they're offering you benefits, you have a monthly or a weekly or biweekly premium that comes out of your paycheck to pay for those benefits. So the employer pays most of it, but you do pay a share of your benefits. So please know that our laws in the United States are that if you are on your parents' benefits, you can stay on your parents' benefits till you're age 26. So please, I've noticed that a lot of students are not aware of that. And when they become aware of it, they're usually thrilled because, you know, once they speak to their parents and know that they can stay on those benefits, then they decline sometimes very costly benefits from their new employer. And if at any time, maybe their parent loses a job or the benefits change or whatever, if any point in time you want to go on to the employer benefits that you've declined, you can do that as long as you can show the documentation that you are no longer being covered by your parents' benefits. So in some cases, benefits can be as much as $300 or more per month. So when you are starting an entry-level job, that is a big piece that would be taken out. So keep in mind, if you are covered by your parents' benefits, you can stay on till age 26. So look into that. The other thing is eligibility. When do you become eligible for benefits? Some companies start you the first day that you work, and some companies make you eligible the beginning of the month, etc. So just know when you're going to be eligible. It should say it in the offer letter. If not, they should be attaching a link to the benefits, and you can see there when you become eligible. The other thing that I don't want to spend a long time on retirement. I want to say just a couple of things. Most companies have something called a 401k, or I think in education, it might be called a 403b. It's something with a 40. It's about retirement benefits. So what's important, I'm going to say two things because I know you're not thinking about retirement right now. Here's a clue. The earlier you start, the better your nest egg will be when you get to retirement age. So just even if you can contribute the minimum 2%, 4% at the beginning, that's fine. As you earn more, you can contribute more. The other thing is you should know when that starts. Some companies don't start that for a year. So just please know when that starts. And the other thing is many companies have a matching contribution, meaning for every dollar that you put in, they match $1 or they match 50 cents on the dollar. That really adds up over time. So regarding 401k, when you're eligible, start early, and is the company matching what you've put in? Those are the points that I want to cover on benefits. One of the most confusing things in an offer letter. Paid time off. Yippee. Okay, so generally paid time off is divided into 3 categories: vacation, sick days, and personal days. Some companies have something called PTO, where it's just a bank of time, and some companies break it up into those categories. So you have 10 vacation days, you have 5 sick days, and you have 3 personal days. So just keep in mind that that is generally tracked, and there is generally a time period when you become eligible for it. Some companies, you have to wait 3 months in order to take any of your paid time off. Some companies, it starts on day 1. So the other part of paid time off that I didn't mention also is paid holidays. So most companies have the basic holidays: Christmas, New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, those type of holidays. And generally you will be paid when the company is closed on a holiday. The other thing about paid time off is, please, if you have prearranged vacation time, you already booked a flight, you already accepted an invitation to an out-of-town wedding, your family has planned a summer vacation, please know that now is the time to let them know. I promise you that it is 99 times out of 100 not a problem, as long as you tell them up front. It is a problem if you accept the job and then 2 months later tell them about your 2-week trip to Europe that you never mentioned before you started. So it's all okay. Prearranged vacations, recruiters deal with that every day of the week. It is fine, but please communicate it up front. Work location. Okay, so used to just be in the office, and we all know now it is office and remote, which we call a hybrid situation, meaning some days in the office, some days remote, could be all days remote now. Many companies are going to that. What I'm noticing is that the investment banking firms, they are doing hybrid now, but there's lots of buzz about them wanting you in the office 5 days a week. So this is a moving target. And however we start may not be how we end. So if you absolutely need some accommodation, could be for childcare, could be for elder care, could be because you have to drive a child to school or something like that, please get that all set up front. And I haven't looked at any recent offer letters, but I would probably say that they are probably going to mention office or remote, whether they call it hybrid or not. But get that understood up front. So the point of all of this, before we get to celebrating, is that you want all of this signed, sealed, and delivered so that there's no surprises. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every perk that a company can offer you, but I'm just going to go through some. So if you see them mentioned, either in an offer letter or in a link, please know that some companies offer this. Tuition reimbursement. So you are graduating with your undergraduate degree, you might at some point want to consider going part-time in the evening or the weekends for another advanced degree, maybe a master's or something like that. So companies will offer tuition reimbursement to their employees. So you may see information about that. Other perks are sometimes gym or fitness allowances. Some companies do phone allowances for your mobile phone. Some companies offer childcare or elder care services, or at least for you to set aside tax-free dollars for those. So if you see that, that is something that is offered as well. Some companies offer equity, not usually at an entry level, but sometimes they do. So the point about equity or stock options or restricted stock units, whichever way the company does it, is please read it carefully. Or if it is confusing, which it can be, please lean on somebody that can explain it to you, including the recruiter at that company. So I want to give you an example. Amazon, a company that we know very well, offers equity at a certain level, and the equity can be as much as $40,000 in equity. So here's the fine print on Amazon. The equity is given to you in groups over your first 5 years. So you cannot actually exercise, meaning use that equity or stock, until you're with the company for 5 years. So I have had many students be very dazzled by reading that in their offer letter from Amazon, but read it carefully because it is what they call a vesting schedule. So equity or stocks are usually what a company calls a retention tool. They are going to offer you this in order to retain you. So in this case, in Amazon, you have to stay 5 years to be eligible for that $40,000 in stock. And it may be more now. But the point is, 5 years is a long time. And it's wonderful if you're happy at Amazon, and I hope you will be. But if you're not, you will get nothing if you leave after 1 year at Amazon. So if you're accepting a job because your head is spinning with $40,000 of equity, please know that there's a catch to that. And there is always a catch to equity. Equity is generally a retention bonus. It's there to retain you to stay. And then the last thing, the last two things, a company may pay for professional certifications if you go through a Series 7, or if you are not Bloomberg certified, and there's a cost to that. There's lots of certifications for Python, for SQL, for lots of different skills that you might need to learn. Sometimes a company will teach that in-house, and smaller companies may allow you to do that online. And if there's a cost, they may pick up the cost. So these are just perks. The last thing is there may be discounts. Many people work for consumer packaged goods firms like Unilever or Nike or Apple, or all different types of firms that may offer their employees discounts on their products. So those are lovely things. Perks are really lovely things. So if you see them, just know that they're really nice things to have. Okay, last item, 10 elements of a job offer letter, is that you may be barraged with, oh wait, before I get there, sorry, background checks. So you may need to go through some background checks. You usually do. And usually the background checks are in two categories. One is usually a drug screening, and the other one could be a criminal or credit screening. So they are very common, and a company wants to ensure that they are getting the best employee that they can. And so don't be surprised if you're asked to do drug, criminal, or credit screening. You just have to sign a release. And for the drug screening, you generally have to go to some local lab and do a drug screening there. The last thing is that you may be hit with more complicated, confusing agreements that you must sign than you ever heard of. So some of them could be confidentiality agreements that you will not disclose details about the company to anybody, or certainly not to a competitor. A non-disclosure is similar to that. The other thing is, don't be surprised in some companies if there's something called a non-compete agreement. And it feels very uncomfortable to sign a non-compete, but a non-compete means that if you leave the company, you cannot go to a competitor, which they will define in the non-compete for a period of time. It could be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending upon your level. During it feels odd that they can stop you from going to a competitor, but that's why they have you sign that before you join, because that's when they have the leverage for you to sign that. There are some states that outlaw non-competes. California is one of them. I'm not familiar now with any others, but there could be others at this point. There's always lots of uncomfortableness about non-competes, but usually, not all the time, when you sign a non-compete, if they make you sit out when you go to a competitor, they usually will keep your salary and your benefits going. If they don't, then that's really uncomfortable because then they're really stopping you from employment. So again, with those agreements in the investment banking world, please know there's a ton more of agreements than what I've just covered. There's tremendous, they can look into your personal portfolios before you join. They can tell you, or they can stipulate all sorts of things about what you can do with your personal money. So that's how it is in investment banking. Don't be surprised. And speak to people in that industry. They will tell you it gets very, feels very intrusive. But again, you're dealing with large sums of money, and the implications of you having any conflict can really be pretty big. So they want to seal that up on their side at the beginning. So those are the 10 elements of a job offer letter. And I'm just going to go to the last slide and then questions. I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm happy to answer questions. So here's the good news. If you decide after all of those things that I spoke about to accept a job offer, okay, the best way to do it is to call the person that offered you the job and do it on a personal call. In case there's any delay in reaching them, an email is also okay. That's perfectly fine. You know, just like I tried to connect with you, I'm so happy that I'll be accepting the offer. And then the actual signed offer letter should be sent to wherever they tell you it should be sent to. So some companies want you to upload it into they will send it to you on their portal, and they want you to sign it and put it back in their portal. Some of them will ask you to email it to them. But the point is, it's very important that you sign it, and it's important to both parties that you have that agreement. At that point that you accept, all the details should be agreed upon, and they should be in the offer letter. So I know sometimes it's uncomfortable to say to an employer, well, you told me the bonus is going to be up to 15%. Would you mind putting that sentence in the offer letter? That is your right to do that. It protects you. It actually protects them also. So don't be afraid to ask them to put that in writing. I've already said this. If you have any type of prearranged time away, please ask for it and clear it before you sign your offer letter. We talked about the background check already. So your offer letter will say that it is contingent upon you passing these. So if they come up with any criminality in your background, they will not immediately dismiss your offer letter. They may ask you, depending upon what level of offense it is, to explain or to provide more information. If it's super serious offenses, they may not ask you. You know, there's something called some green, yellow, or red offenses. So, and you probably know if you have those in your background anyway. So just know that your background check has to be cleared before you sign that offer letter and before they accept you as an employee. Great. So once you pass the background checks and you sign the offer letter, now is your time to celebrate. Now is your time to begin communicating to people. If you have a job and you have a time period of when you're starting this job, now's the time to give your notice to your employer. You decide if you are on social media when you might want to mention this in LinkedIn or change your LinkedIn profile, because then it becomes public. So all good, time to celebrate. If you want to decline a job offer, don't ever burn a bridge. So decline it professionally, verbally. You may also want to follow up in an email with the person that offered you the letter. But don't be nasty or anything. You know, maybe one company offered you X salary and one company offered you Y salary. And, you know, just there's no reason ever not to be polite and professional, even if you feel like it wasn't the greatest offer. You never know when your paths can cross again. So you may be interested in the employer again at a higher level or different level in your career. So you just don't want to burn bridges, as we said. So be polite. Tell them, I truly thank you for this offer. I've decided on whatever. I hope our paths cross again. So just make sure relationships, it's actually, although the world of work is big, in some ways it's also kind of small. So you never know, especially if you're in a particular industry, when you might either want to consider that company, or you may want to consider that person that offered you the job who's maybe now at another company. So you want to decline in good graces. So I'm sorry I've talked so much, but that is the end of this PowerPoint, which I will figure out how to stop sharing. And hang on.
We do have a question.
Good.
So because this is being recorded, I invited the students to put confidential questions in there to send it to me so that I could just read the question.
That
So
sounds good.
there's a question. One of the students wants to know how they can learn about how to negotiate. So is there a way that they could perhaps do like a one-on-one meeting with one of our team on how to negotiate?
Yes. And what I didn't say, I didn't really want to go into negotiating is a whole nother seminar, but what I will say is that yes, you can make an appointment with myself, with any of the career counselors, because every situation is different. So we can't tell you what's right. There's so many factors. Depends upon the size of the company. Is this a very, for example, if you're going to Goldman Sachs, if you're going to an investment bank, all students that are hired into Analyst 101 level start at the same level, at the same compensation. And there's generally no negotiating on that. You may be able to negotiate on other things, the 10 things that we talked about, but usually not in a super big company like that. If you're going to a company of 10 or 20 people, there may be an opportunity to negotiate. And then depends upon your background, depends upon what the skill set is that you're bringing to the job. And it depends upon what you want to negotiate. It may not be the salary. It may be the title. It may be the bonus. It may be your vacation time. There's lots of different ways that you can look at this. So absolutely great question, and happy to meet with anybody individually to go through that.
Okay, and then the other question is, and this is a good one for you, Judy, is salary or hourly better?
Oh my God, I love that question. And I'll tell you why. So hourly is better if you work a lot of hours. So when I went at the beginning of my career from one salary job to another job early in my career that was hourly, I was kind of upset, and I looked at it as a step back. But remember, every company has different rules and regulations and categories that they put employees in. So I was going to a different company who had me at that level as hourly. Well, the truth was that in that first year, with all the overtime that I worked, I almost doubled my salary from my previous company. So there is no such thing as better or best, or I would say at the beginning of your career, if you're going to be in a job where you know you're going to have excessive overtime, then hourly is wonderful. So that's all I'll say. But you know, some companies will not make you hourly. So every company has lots of different rules. And then the Department of Labor in different states have different classifications of what makes an employee hourly paid or salaried. So lots of things to think about. And that is generally not something that if you are salaried, you generally cannot request a company to make you hourly, and vice versa. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Let's see. I don't see any other questions. That was excellent, Judy. I think there's so many points that you raised that if you don't know that those even exist, you don't know enough to ask for them or to talk about them.
Yes. Now, Kathy, you wrote something in here. Excellent point. Put the money in a savings account for the year so you can leave if you need.
So that was when you were talking about the bonus, and that you can, if you leave within a year, you may have to pay the bonus back. So I usually tell students, throw that right into a bank account. Don't
Okay.
touch it.
Okay.
And then if you want to leave, you don't have to start scrambling to pay back that amount. You just put it in the bank account for a year.
Exactly. Yes, that's very doable. The one that really stings, and I didn't talk about it too much, sometimes a company will give you a relocation allowance. And it's a nice sum of money because you have to move, you have to sign a lease, you have to put up security. So you don't usually have the opportunity to put that aside because it's there for a reason. And then if you leave that within a year, that's going to sting to pay that back.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can negotiate with your next employer to get them to pay for some of that. So yeah, lots of different ways to do that. Any other questions? No? Okay, so thank you for the students and my colleagues who were on this. And we have another Business Career Week presentation coming up at 4 o'clock today, and we're going to be talking about sweatpants to dress pants. So we're going to be talking about making the transition from college to career, and that will be at 4 o'clock. And as usual, all of these will be on YouTube, and our channel is called Yukon Business Career Development Department, and if not, it's always on our website. So thank you again. Anybody who wants to meet with myself or any of us privately, please make an appointment on Nexus, and we're happy to meet with you. Okay? And congratulations on your offer letters. So have a good day. Okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you, Judy.